In 2 Corinthians 10:14 through 17, Paul declares that he had fulfilled God's will upon his life in sharing the gospel with the Corinthians. He wrote these 4 verses to refute his enemies' claims that he had taken credit for work he hadn't done. They declared that he had gloried in another man's labors. Yet Paul told the church at Corinth, "For we stretch not ourselves beyond our measure, as though we reach not unto you. For we are come as far as to you also in preaching the gospel of Christ." It is as though Paul were telling the church, we did not extend ourselves beyond what God told us to do. God told us to bring the gospel to you here at Corinth. It was our measure. It was the boundaries for our mission. And we did it. We obeyed God according to the measure he gave us. Do you suppose that Paul wanted to take the gospel beyond Corinth to tell more people? Probably. But how many Christians could confidently say, like Paul said, that they measure up to God's gospel call upon their life? Paul then says in verses 15 and 16 that he had hope when your faith, that is the faith of the church at Corinth, is increased, then we shall be enlarged by you according to our rule abundantly, to preach the gospel in the regions beyond you. Paul had done his job in getting the gospel to the church at Corinth. And now it was time for the church at Corinth to do their part in getting the gospel beyond Paul's measure. And Paul knew that as the church spread the gospel, it would be spiritual fruit abundantly added to his account. But notice the progression of these verses. Before the local church could take the gospel to the regions beyond, Paul had to first do his duty to get the gospel to the people of Corinth. Only then could the gospel go to the regions beyond. Think of it like a relay race. In a relay race, the first runner passes the baton to the second runner, and so on until the baton goes all the way around the track. Each runner has a measure of the track that they are responsible to run. What if, for example, the second runner just doesn't feel like running today? Or maybe he falls and gets hurt. Maybe he thinks their team can't win, so what's the purpose of running? Perhaps he is afraid to run in front of such a big crowd of people. For whatever reason, if he decides not to run, the baton never goes beyond him. Different people down through history, many of which we may never know, have been faithful to pass the baton of the gospel down to Lighthouse Baptist Church. The gospel has come as far as Lighthouse Baptist Church. And now it is our duty to make sure the gospel goes beyond Lighthouse Baptist Church. We do this by personally telling those in our city and state. We invite people in an organized church effort and on a day-to-day basis through personal interaction. We also do this by supporting missionaries who take the gospel to other lands. Just like the first relay runner in a race helps the second runner run his part by making sure he gets the baton, we do our part by making sure missionaries can go beyond where we can go, all the while fulfilling the measure that God has given them. But just like a missionary in some remote village has a measure that he must fulfill, you and I, who are a part of Lighthouse Baptist Church, also have a measure that we must fulfill in our lives in spreading the gospel. Can you honestly say that you have measured up to God's gospel call on your life? Can you say that you have told everybody, you've witnessed to everybody the Spirit of God has led you to speak to? Can you say that you've taken the gospel to every desk, cubicle, break room, every family reunion? Can you say that you have financially given to support missionaries to make sure that they can fulfill God's measure upon their life? Can you say that you have fulfilled God's measure for your life? As we go through this year's missions conference, ask yourself this: in what ways does my faith need to increase? Perhaps you need to be more bold in your witness. Perhaps you need to be more sacrificial in your giving. Or perhaps maybe you need to be more faithful in your prayer time. Whatever the answer is, would you be willing for the glory of God to make an increase in your faith, to make a personal decision that I will increase my faith in this area of my life, so that the gospel may go from 4280 Hopeful Drive, Colorado Springs, Colorado, to the regions beyond.